What if I told you narcissists weren't always this way? Once they were just like you, gifted, chosen, destined for greatness. But then something changed. Something broke them. They started as special souls chosen for a greater purpose. But along the way, life threw them into darkness, betrayal, rejection, deep wounds. Instead of healing, they built a mask of confidence, power, and control. But behind that mask, an empty soul, trapped in a cycle of fear and loneliness. Why did this happen? Could it happen to anyone? And most importantly, can they ever be saved? Stay with me till the end, because today we are uncovering the hidden truth behind narcissism. You'll see how some chosen ones lost their way and why you must never let this happen to you. Comment below, have you ever met someone who was once kind but became selfish over time? Let's talk about it. Join our community of truth seekers. We're here to learn, grow, and support each other. So show some love, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's dive in. Once, they were different. Once, they were the ones who cared, who loved deeply, who dreamed of making the world better. Narcissists were not born with hardened hearts. They did not start their journey as manipulators or attention seekers. Once upon a time, they were just like the rest of us, maybe even better. They were the sensitive ones, the deep thinkers, the ones who saw beauty in everything. They were the ones who felt emotions so intensely that it sometimes overwhelmed them. But something happened along the way. Something broke them. Not in a way that made them stronger, but in a way that turned them into something else. They were chosen ones, souls meant for greatness, for purpose, for healing others. But life did not treat them kindly. Instead, it crushed them under the weight of expectations, betrayals, and wounds that never fully healed. Many narcissists start as highly gifted and sensitive children. They are the ones who notice things others don't. The sadness in a parent's eyes, the loneliness in a classmate's heart, the unspoken pain in a stranger's voice. They are the ones who give too much, who trust too easily, who believe in the goodness of people. But not every sensitive child is raised in an environment that nurtures their gifts. Some are placed in homes where love is conditional, where affection must be earned, where mistakes are punished rather than learned from. Others grow up with parents who see their sensitivity as a weakness, who tell them to toughen up instead of teaching them how to process their emotions. Some face rejection from friends, teachers, or the very people they admire the most. And then one day, a moment arrives, a moment that changes everything. It might be a deep betrayal, a painful rejection, or a sudden loss that leaves them shattered. It could be a time when they cried out for help, but no one came. It could be the realization that no matter how much they give, they will never be enough. This moment is a wound, and if it does not heal properly, it festers. It grows into something dark and dangerous. It becomes the seed of narcissism. When faced with pain, people have two choices. They can heal or they can hide. Healing requires courage. It demands that a person sits with their pain, feels every wound, and allows themselves to be vulnerable. But for some, vulnerability is too dangerous. Vulnerability means opening themselves up to more pain, more rejection, more heartbreak. So instead of healing, they choose to build walls. They put on a mask, one of strength, power, and control. They convince themselves that if kindness made them weak, then they will never be kind again. If love made them suffer, then they will never allow themselves to love again. And slowly, piece by piece, the sensitive soul they once were begins to disappear. In its place, a new identity is formed, one that is untouchable, unbreakable, and above all, invulnerable. At first, this transformation feels like protection. The mask gives them power. They no longer feel small or weak. They no longer feel the need to depend on anyone else. They learn how to charm, how to manipulate, how to control situations to get what they want. They tell themselves that they are not the problem, the world is. They convince themselves that emotions are useless, that attachment is dangerous, that power is the only thing that matters. And in the beginning it works. People admire them. They gain influence, success, and attention. But something strange happens over time. No matter how much praise they receive, it is never enough. No matter how many people adore them, they still feel empty inside. The truth is, the mask was never real. It was only a cover for the pain they never dealt with. And because they never healed, the pain remains, hidden but alive, waiting beneath the surface. This is the prison of the narcissist. They believe they have become powerful, but in reality, they are trapped. They cannot handle being ignored. They cannot handle criticism. They cannot handle being alone with their own thoughts. Their entire existence becomes a performance, one that must be maintained at all costs. If anyone sees through the mask, if anyone challenges their illusion of superiority, they react with anger, defensiveness, or cruelty. Because deep down they know that if the mask cracks, they will be forced to face the one thing they have been running from all along, themselves. This is why narcissists struggle with real relationships. They can attract people with their charm and confidence, but they cannot maintain genuine connections. Real relationships require vulnerability, and vulnerability is the very thing they have spent their lives avoiding. They crave admiration, but they fear intimacy. They want control, but they cannot handle love in its purest form. Because love is not about power, it is about trust, giving, and openness. And for a narcissist, those things are far too dangerous. But here is the tragedy. Many narcissists were once meant for more. They were not always lost in illusions and manipulations. They had the potential to be great leaders, healers, and visionaries. They could have used their gifts to uplift others, to bring light into the world, to guide those who were struggling. But instead, they let pain define them. They let their wounds shape their identity. They chose control over connection, power over purpose, deception over truth. And in doing so, they lost themselves. The question remains, can a narcissist ever be saved? The answer is not simple. Some are too far gone, too deep in their own illusions to ever break free. They have built their identity around their mask for so long that they no longer know where the mask ends and where they begin. But some still have a chance. If a narcissist is willing to face their pain, if they are willing to break down the walls they have built, if they are willing to feel what they have been avoiding for so long, then maybe, just maybe, they can find their way back. But this is the hardest journey of all, because it means confronting everything they have denied. It means feeling the loneliness, the rejection, the fear, and the truth they have buried. And that is a battle many are not willing to fight. This is why understanding this journey is important, because this could happen to anyone. Pain has the power to shape people, for better or for worse. Every person will face moments in life where they must make a choice. Will they let pain harden them, or will they let it make them wiser, stronger, and kinder? This is the difference between a chosen one and a fallen one. A chosen one chooses healing, even when it hurts. A fallen one chooses to escape, even if it means losing themselves. A chosen one chooses love, even after experiencing betrayal. A fallen one chooses control to make sure they are never hurt again. A chosen one faces their wounds and grows from them. A fallen one buries their wounds and becomes trapped by them. The truth is, we all have the potential to go either way. Life will test us. It will break us in ways we never expected, but what defines us is not what happens to us, it is how we respond. So when that moment comes, when the pain feels unbearable, when the world seems cruel and unfair, ask yourself, will you let it turn you into someone bitter, Or will you rise above it and become someone better? The choice is yours. Once they were different. They were kind, sensitive, and full of dreams. They were the ones who felt everything deeply. The pain of others, the weight of the world, the beauty in the smallest details. They were the ones who gave more than they took, who believed in love, in kindness, in doing the right thing. They were the chosen ones, meant for something greater. But something happened along the way. Something broke them. Not in a way that made them stronger, but in a way that made them retreat behind a mask, one of arrogance, manipulation, and coldness. They were hurt, betrayed, abandoned, and instead of healing, they became something else. This is their story. Narcissists are not born, they are made. Every narcissist has a moment in their past when something shattered inside them, a moment of deep pain, loss, or rejection that changed them forever. This is their breaking point, the moment when they stopped being who they truly were and became someone else. For some, it started in childhood. Perhaps they were raised by parents who only gave love when it was earned, who rewarded achievement but punished vulnerability. Maybe they had caregivers who were emotionally absent, who neglected their needs, or who placed impossible expectations on them. Some were scapegoated, blamed for things they didn't do, while others were the golden child, forced to live up to an impossible standard. Either way, they learned a dangerous lesson. Love is conditional, and weakness is punished. Others experience betrayal later in life. A best friend turned against them. A lover used them and discarded them. A mentor they trusted abandoned them. They gave their heart, their trust, their loyalty, only to be met with cruelty. And in that moment, something inside them snapped. The pain was too much. They decided they would never be vulnerable again, never allow themselves to be hurt like that again, never trust, never give, never love in the same way again. This is where everything went wrong. Turning pain into power the wrong way. Pain is a powerful force. It can either break a person or transform them. For some, pain leads to healing. It teaches them compassion, resilience, and wisdom. But for others, pain becomes a weapon. Instead of facing it, they bury it. Instead of processing it, they project it onto others. They convince themselves that they are not the weak ones. The weak ones are the ones who feel, who trust, who love. And so they decide to become the opposite of what they once were. Instead of kindness, they choose control. Instead of trust, they choose manipulation. Instead of love, they choose power. They tell themselves that if they are the ones in control, if they are the ones who dictate the rules, then no one can ever hurt them again. They build walls so high that no one can get close. They stop being the victim and become the one in charge. They turn their suffering into a tool, a way to dominate, to bend others to their will, to always stay one step ahead. At first, it works. People respect them, fear them, admire their confidence, their charm, their ability to navigate the world with ease. But what they don't realize is that this power is an illusion. It is not strength. It is fear. Fear of being seen, of being vulnerable, of being hurt again. And the more they run from their pain, the deeper it consumes them. When confidence becomes arrogance. True confidence comes from self-acceptance. It is the quiet, unshakable belief that you are enough just as you are. But the narcissist does not believe this. Deep down, they feel empty, unworthy, broken, but they cannot allow themselves to admit it. So instead, they create a false self, a version of themselves that is superior, flawless, untouchable. This is where arrogance takes over. They begin to believe their own lies, that they are better than others, smarter, more powerful. They dismiss criticism as jealousy. They see kindness as weakness. They belittle those who challenge them, mock those who are vulnerable, and surround themselves only with those who feed their ego. Their mask of superiority becomes their armor, their protection against the truth they refuse to face. But the problem with living a lie is that it requires constant maintenance. Every moment they must uphold the illusion. They must ensure that no one sees the cracks. They must keep proving over and over again that they are the best, the smartest, the strongest, and this becomes exhausting. That's why narcissists are never truly happy. Even when they achieve success, even when they are admired, even when they have everything they ever wanted, it is never enough. Because deep down, they know the truth. They are not this person. They are still that scared, wounded soul who was once rejected, once abandoned, once made to feel small. And no amount of praise or power will ever fill that void. The death of empathy. Once they were deeply empathetic. They could feel the emotions of others as if they were their own. They could sense pain, understand suffering, and offer kindness without expecting anything in return. But when they were hurt, when the world taught them that vulnerability was dangerous, they made a choice. They killed their empathy. Empathy is what allows us to connect with others. It is what makes us human. But for a narcissist, empathy is too risky. If they feel too much, they might remember their own pain. If they open their heart, they might get hurt again. So they shut it down. They convince themselves that emotions are pointless, that feelings are a weakness, that the only thing that matters is power. And once empathy dies, manipulation takes its place. Instead of caring about others, they start using them. People become tools, stepping stones to get what they want. They learn how to charm, how to deceive, how to control. They become masters of reading people, not to connect with them, but to exploit them. This is the turning point where they truly lose themselves, because without empathy, they cannot love. They cannot truly bond. They cannot experience the depth of human connection that makes life meaningful. They may think they are winning, but in reality, they are more lost than ever. There is one thing that terrifies every narcissist. It is not failure, it is not rejection, it is not even loneliness. It is exposure, because deep down they know the truth. They know that the person they present to the world is not real. They know that their confidence is a mask, their power is a lie, their superiority is an illusion. They know that if someone were to see through them, to truly understand who they are, underneath it all, it would destroy them. This is why narcissists react so aggressively to criticism. Why they lash out when someone questions them. Why they cannot stand being ignored, being challenged, being seen for what they truly are. Because if the mask cracks, if the illusion breaks, then they will have to face the thing they fear the most, themselves. And that is a battle they are not prepared to fight. The tragic reality: narcissists were not meant to be this way. They were once chosen ones, gifted, loving, full of light. They had the potential to change the world, to heal, to lead with kindness, but instead they chose the path of avoidance. They let pain harden them. They let fear define them. They let their wounds become their identity. Can they ever come back? Some can, if they are willing to face their truth, if they are willing to remove the mask, to feel the pain they buried, to confront their deepest fears. But this is rare, because the longer they live the lie, the harder it is to let go. And so they remain trapped, powerful but empty, admired but unloved, in control but never at peace. A chosen one who lost their way, a soul that was meant for light, now lost in the darkness. A warning for all of us, because pain will come for us all. But it is not the pain that defines us. It is how we choose to respond. Do we let it turn us into something we are not, or do we face it, heal from it, and rise above it? The choice is ours. At first glance, they seem untouchable, confident, powerful, always in control. They move through life as if they are above it all, as if they have unlocked some secret to existence that others will never understand. People admire them, envy them, follow them. But beneath the surface, beneath the carefully constructed image, lies a truth they refuse to face. They are trapped, not by anyone else, not by circumstances, but by their own mind. They are prisoners of their own illusions, bound by the very walls they built to protect themselves. What started as a defense mechanism, an escape from pain, rejection, and vulnerability, has become their cage. They cannot leave it, even if they wanted to, because to escape would mean to confront the truth. And the truth is the one thing they cannot bear. Trapped in a cycle of ego and emptiness. They crave admiration, worship, validation. It fuels them, gives them a sense of purpose, makes them feel alive. But no matter how much they receive, it is never enough. It is like drinking salt water to quench their thirst. The more they consume, the thirstier they become. This is the cruel irony of their existence. They have built their entire identity on external validation. They believe that as long as others see them as powerful, special, superior, then it must be true. But deep down, they know the truth. The admiration is hollow. It is not real, because it is not them that people love. It is the mask. And that means the moment they stop performing, the moment they show weakness, the moment they reveal their true self, it could all come crashing down. So they chase more praise, more control, more power. They keep running, keep feeding their ego, hoping that one day it will be enough. But it never is. It never will be, because what they are really chasing is not admiration. It is a sense of self-worth that they lost long ago. And no amount of outside validation will ever fill that void. The chosen one complex turned dark. Once, they truly believed they were different, gifted, special, destined for greatness. And maybe they were. Maybe they had talents, insights, or charisma that set them apart. But instead of using their gifts for good, instead of leading with wisdom and compassion, they allowed their belief in their own uniqueness to turn into something else. Arrogance. They convinced themselves that they were not just different, but better. That rules did not apply to them, that they were above consequences, above morality, above accountability. The world became divided in their mind. There were those who recognized their greatness, and those who were too blind, too jealous, too weak to see it. This is where the darkness takes over. They stop learning because they believe they already know everything. They stop growing because they think they have already arrived. They stop listening because no one else's perspective could possibly match their own. And so they stagnate. While they may appear powerful, their mind is stuck in a loop. Instead of evolving, they cling to their self-image, refusing to question it. Because to question it would be to admit they might not be as special as they think. And that is a reality they will never accept. Why they can't admit they're wrong. To most people, admitting fault is difficult but necessary. It is how we grow, how we learn, how we build stronger relationships. But to them, admitting they were wrong is impossible because their entire identity depends on the illusion of power and superiority. If they were to accept fault, if they were to acknowledge a mistake, it would shatter everything. So instead, they rewrite reality. They shift blame onto others. They twist the story until they are the victim. They gaslight, deny, distort the facts, anything to avoid taking responsibility. Even when the truth is staring them in the face, even when the evidence is undeniable, they will cling to their version of reality because the alternative is too painful to bear. It is not that they can't see the truth. Deep down, a part of them knows. But that part is buried locked away behind layers of defense mechanisms, and as long as they refuse to face it, they remain stuck, trapped in a world of their own making, where they are always right, always justified, always the hero. But in reality, they are not the hero. They are not even free. They are just a prisoner running from the one thing they cannot escape: themselves. Self-sabotage and isolation. The greatest tragedy of their existence is that they push away the very things they crave the most: love, connection, true friendship. At first, they draw people in effortlessly. Their charm, their confidence, their energy, it is magnetic. But over time, the cracks begin to show: the need for control, the inability to admit fault, the lack of true emotional depth. And one by one, the people who truly care about them begin to leave. Not because they want to, but because they have no choice. Because a relationship with them is one-sided. They demand loyalty, but offer none in return. They expect devotion, but refuse to be vulnerable. They take and take, but they never truly give. And so they end up alone. Not because the world abandoned them, but because they pushed it away. Yet they will never see it that way. In their mind, it is always someone else's fault. People were disloyal, people were weak, people couldn't handle their greatness. They tell themselves they don't need anyone, that they are better off alone. But the truth is, they do need people. They just don't know how to keep them. And so the cycle continues. They build walls higher, become more detached, more manipulative, more obsessed with control. But no matter how much power they accumulate, how much success they achieve, it is never enough, because deep down, they are still running, still hiding, still afraid of being seen, afraid of being wrong, afraid of facing the truth they have buried for so long. And that is the trap, the one they set for themselves, the one they will never escape unless they finally stop running and face the only enemy that ever truly existed, the one within. The question of whether a narcissist can be healed is both complex and unsettling. For many, narcissism seems like an impenetrable fortress built from years of pain, self-deception, and a relentless hunger for validation. But deep inside, beneath the layers of arrogance, control, and manipulation, there once existed a different version of them, a version filled with potential, innocence, and the capacity to love. So, is redemption possible? The answer is not a simple yes or no. True healing requires something that narcissists struggle with the most: self-awareness. Without it, change is impossible. A narcissist must first recognize that their behavior is destructive, not only to others, but to themselves. However, the greatest challenge is that narcissists are masters of rewriting reality, turning every failure into someone else's fault, every betrayal into a justified act, and every moment of pain into fuel for their false superiority. Healing a narcissist isn't about simply changing their mindset. It's about dismantling the entire illusion they've built to survive, and that is terrifying for them. Imagine living in a house made of glass, believing it's unbreakable, only to realize that one crack could shatter everything. This is the fear that keeps them trapped. If they admit they are wrong, they have to face the truth, something they have spent a lifetime avoiding. But in rare cases, a narcissist can begin to change. It often takes a life-altering event, a painful loss, an irreversible failure, or complete isolation for them to be forced into reflection. In those moments of brokenness, they may catch a glimpse of the emptiness they've been running from. If they are willing to step into that pain instead of running from it, transformation is possible. However, the process is slow, painful, and requires a deep willingness to rebuild themselves from the inside out. Most narcissists will not take this path because it means surrendering control. It means letting go of the false image they've spent their entire life perfecting. It means feeling emotions they have long buried: shame, regret, and sorrow. And for many, this is too much to bear. Instead, they double down on their toxic ways, choosing power over peace, illusion over truth. But what about the ones who do change? They are the ones who make the most extraordinary transformations. If a narcissist truly humbles themselves, acknowledges their wrongs, and begins the journey of self-awareness, they can reclaim their lost potential. They can unlearn the patterns that turned them bitter and choose a path of wisdom instead of manipulation. They can become the leaders, visionaries, and guides they were meant to be. So, can a narcissist be healed? Yes, but only if they choose it. No one can force them to change. The power lies in their hands, and that is the greatest irony of all. The same strength they used to build their illusions could be used to break free from them. But will they? Or will they remain prisoners of their own creation? There is a tragic irony in the story of a narcissist. They were never meant to be destroyers, manipulators, or false gods craving control. They were meant for something far greater. In another reality, had they chosen healing instead of dominance, they could have become leaders, visionaries, or spiritual guides, forces of transformation instead of destruction. But instead of using their power for good, they turned inward, letting pain shape them into something dark and unrecognizable. Many narcissists begin life with immense potential. They are often highly intelligent, creative, and charismatic. They draw people in effortlessly, their presence commanding attention. In their early years, they may have even been kind, sensitive, and deeply intuitive. But somewhere along the way, they made a choice, conscious or unconscious, to protect themselves at all costs. Instead of healing from their wounds, they covered them with masks. Instead of embracing vulnerability, they built walls. Instead of leading with wisdom, they led with fear. Yet beneath all the layers of deception and control, their true essence still exists. The mind of a narcissist, when freed from its toxic patterns, has the potential to be deeply insightful. Their natural confidence, if rooted in humility instead of arrogance, could inspire others rather than manipulate them. Their gift of influence, if used with integrity, could elevate humanity rather than enslave it. But they chose the easy path, the path of power over healing, illusion over authenticity, and self-worship over self-growth. This is the ultimate tragedy of the narcissist. They are not weak-minded individuals blindly following darkness. They are people who once had the strength to endure deep pain but misused that strength to suppress it instead of overcoming it. Had they turned inward with honesty, had they faced their wounds instead of running from them, they would have been the very leaders the world desperately needs. They could have been protectors, guides, and healers, helping others break free instead of trapping them in the same pain they once felt. But why do so many narcissists fail to walk this path? Because true transformation requires surrender, and surrender feels like death to them. To heal, they must admit that their entire persona, the one they carefully built over years, is nothing more than a fragile illusion. They must acknowledge that the power they cling to is a cage, not freedom. And for someone who has spent their whole life fearing weakness, this is the hardest truth to accept. There is another irony in their story. Narcissists already have everything they seek. They crave admiration, but had they chosen humility, they would have earned true respect. They hunger for control, but had they embraced trust, they would have inspired loyalty. They chase significance, but had they walked the path of wisdom, they would have found purpose beyond their own ego. But instead, they chose a counterfeit version of greatness, a version that is hollow, fragile, and destined to collapse. The castles they build in their minds are made of sand, washed away the moment reality crashes down. Their arrogance isolates them, their hunger for power makes them enemies rather than allies, and their need for control blinds them to the love they could have had. In the end, they do not rise as kings, leaders, or visionaries. They fall as shadows of what they could have been. Yet not all is lost. The path of healing is still there, waiting. The narcissist's true power, if reclaimed, could still change the world. But will they take that step? Or will they remain prisoners of their own creation, forever haunted by the truth they refuse to face? There is a hidden danger that comes with being a chosen one, a silent test that few recognize until it's too late. The same path that led narcissists into destruction is still open, waiting for anyone who lets pain turn them bitter instead of better. The question is, will you rise above it, or will you repeat the cycle? Many of those who fall into narcissism were once highly gifted, sensitive souls who felt deeply, loved fiercely, and saw the world differently. They carried a light within them, a potential to lead, heal, and inspire. But somewhere along the way, pain entered their lives. Betrayal, rejection, abandonment, or deep wounds from childhood planted seeds of anger, resentment, and mistrust. And instead of healing, they chose to build walls. The same choice stands before you today. Pain is inevitable, but what you do with it will shape your destiny. Pain can be a powerful teacher, but it is also a dangerous guide. If you let it control you, it will twist your perception, making you see enemies where there are none. It will whisper lies, convincing you that love is a weakness and trust is a risk not worth taking. It will tempt you with power, the ability to control, manipulate, and dominate, so you never feel vulnerable again. And once you step onto that path, it becomes harder and harder to turn back. Look at those who fell before you. They too once believed they were different. They thought they were in control, that their pain made them stronger. But over time, they became the very thing they once despised. Their hearts grew cold, their minds poisoned by arrogance, their souls disconnected from the light they were meant to carry. And in the end, their power became their prison. You are standing at a crossroads. Will you allow your pain to turn you into a version of yourself that you won't recognize? Or will you take the harder path, the path of healing, self-awareness, and transformation? The choice will determine everything. Many chosen ones fall because they mistake survival for strength. They think pushing people away makes them powerful. They believe being feared is better than being understood. They tell themselves that no one deserves their kindness because the world is cruel. But what they don't realize is that the strongest souls are the ones who choose love despite their pain. Real power is not found in control. It is found in mastery over oneself. If you are reading this, this is your warning. The darkness that consumed others is waiting for you too. It is patient. It knows your weaknesses. It will offer you an easy way out. One where you don't have to feel, don't have to trust, don't have to risk being hurt again. But that path does not lead to greatness. It leads to isolation, emptiness, and regret. The chosen ones who rise above their pain are the ones who embrace it without letting it define them. They understand that suffering is part of the journey, but bitterness is a choice. They learn, grow, and evolve instead of becoming prisoners of their wounds. And in doing so, they step into their true power, the power of a heart that has been broken but still beats with love, a mind that has been tested but still chooses wisdom, and a soul that has been wounded but still shines. The cycle is there, waiting to claim another soul. But it does not have to be you. You can break it. You can transcend it. And in doing so, you will not just save yourself, you will become the guide, the light, and the force that helps others do the same. The world does not need more narcissists. It needs more healers, leaders, and warriors of truth. Which one will you be? Narcissists were not born as they are today. Once upon a time, they were chosen ones, gifted, sensitive, and full of light. They had the potential to inspire, lead, and heal, but something changed. Somewhere along the way, pain entered their lives, and instead of transforming that pain into wisdom, they let it consume them. Instead of healing, they chose control. Instead of love, they chose manipulation. And instead of rising above their wounds, they became slaves to them. This is the greatest tragedy of narcissism, not just what they have become, but what they could have been. They were meant for something greater, but their choices led them down a path of destruction. The moment, everything changed. At the core of every narcissist is a wounded soul. The breaking point came when they faced deep emotional pain, rejection, betrayal, neglect, or loss. But instead of allowing themselves to feel and heal, they built a fortress around their hearts. They convinced themselves that vulnerability was dangerous, that love was a weakness, and that they had to become untouchable to survive. But in doing so, they lost something far more precious, their true selves. Once, they were full of empathy. Now they see emotions as tools for manipulation. Once, they sought connection. Now they push people away, afraid of being exposed. Once, they had the potential to be visionaries, healers, or guides. Now they crave control, admiration, and power, things that will never fill the emptiness inside them. They did not set out to become narcissists, but every choice they made, every lie, every mask, every moment of pride over humility, led them further down a path that is almost impossible to return from. The psychological trap. Why they can't escape. Narcissists are not just trapped by their own ego, they are trapped by fear. Fear of being seen for who they really are. Fear of confronting the pain they have buried so deep. Fear of losing the illusion of power they have built. They know deep down that if their mask ever cracks, everything will come crashing down. But instead of facing the truth, they rewrite reality. They manipulate, gaslight, and distort. They push away the people who love them the most because deep inside, they don't believe they deserve love. They sabotage their own happiness because if they ever stopped playing the role of the superior being, they would have to face the one thing they fear most, themselves. This is why narcissists rarely change. To heal, they would have to admit they were wrong, and to them, that is worse than death. The ultimate irony, they were meant for more. Had they chosen healing over control, self-awareness over denial, and love over fear, they could have become so much more. They had the intelligence, the charm, and the charisma to be great leaders. They had the sensitivity to understand human emotions deeply. They had the ability to inspire, teach, and guide others. But instead of using their gifts for good, they twisted them into weapons of control. Their leadership became manipulation. Their charm became deceit. Their vision became self-obsession. They became the very thing they once hated. This is the saddest part of all. Narcissists were never supposed to be this way. They had everything they needed to walk the path of wisdom, but they let their pain turn them bitter instead of better. They traded their purpose for an illusion, and now they are lost in a cycle of ego, emptiness, and suffering. The warning to chosen ones. Today, the path of the fallen chosen ones is not unique to them. It is a warning to anyone who has ever been deeply hurt, betrayed, or abandoned. Pain is a powerful force. It can either shape you into someone great, or it can turn you into something unrecognizable. If you let pain consume you, it will turn you cold. It will make you believe that trust is foolish, that love is dangerous, and that power is the only thing that matters. It will trick you into believing that controlling others will protect you from ever feeling weak again. But in the end, it will only leave you empty. Every chosen one will face this test. Will you let your wounds define you, or will you heal and rise above them? Narcissists chose power over healing, illusion over truth, and control over connection. and now they are trapped in a cycle they may never escape. But you still have a choice. Breaking the cycle. The path of true power. The strongest souls are not the ones who hide behind masks. They are the ones who have faced their pain, embraced their flaws, and chosen to grow despite their suffering. True power is not about control, it is about mastery over oneself. If you want to be truly powerful, learn to heal instead of harden. Feel your pain, process it, and grow from it. Love instead of manipulate. Real strength is found in connection, not control. Stay humble instead of arrogant. Those who believe they know everything, stop growing. Seek truth instead of illusions. Face your fears even when it hurts. Break the cycle instead of repeating it. The world doesn't need more narcissists. It needs more healers, leaders, and warriors of light. The final choice, redemption or ruin. Is there hope for narcissists? Can they be saved? The answer is yes, but only if they choose to be. Healing is always possible, but it requires humility, self-awareness, and the courage to face the truth. It requires them to let go of the lies they have built around themselves and confront their deepest wounds. And most will never do it. But you are not them. Right now, you stand at the same crossroads they once faced. The choice you make today will determine your future. Will you let your pain turn you bitter, or will you rise above it? Will you chase control, or will you seek wisdom? Will you repeat the mistakes of those before you, or will you break the cycle? The path of narcissism leads to emptiness, isolation, and regret. The path of healing leads to strength, wisdom, and true power. Choose wisely. You were never meant to be consumed by your pain. You were never meant to let your struggles define you. You are here for something greater. Life will test you. You will face betrayal, heartbreak, and moments where the darkness feels unbearable. But these are not signs that you are meant to fall. They are opportunities to rise. The greatest mistake of fallen chosen ones is that they let their suffering turn them bitter instead of better. They saw their wounds as a curse instead of a lesson. They chose control over healing, arrogance over wisdom, and manipulation over love. Your past does not define you. Your wounds do not limit you. What you choose today will shape your destiny. Rise above. Transform your pain into power. Be who you were meant to be.